Hello, this is FG back with you for Anbennar. We are picking up with our Pashaine campaign. Okay, what do we have? Faith through trade. Yeah, I don't know if they're even supposed to... how long they're supposed to live. Okay, so he'll die in about 30 years. Hmm. Curbing the influence of mages. The exercise of power is not for cowards. It is an ideal we would wish to preserve, of course. Retain only the reasonable mages, arresting the others, conduct a calm and measured campaign of judicial investigation. But the struggle we are in is existential, and the threats mount by the day. When we built a system which represented the people, we promised to represent the people in their wrath, to defend them as if they were our family, as if they were all one body, one guild of citizens. Now the time has come to defend society against the arcane threat, to root out those would have a witch king in place of parliament. The Mage's Spire is a form of organization fundamentally incompatible with our own. It does not restrain itself only to the tower, but infiltrates everywhere. In times past, the charge of treason was one of personal disloyalty against the monarch. For us, the disloyalty is against the entire guild, the entire body politic. So we're basically starting to become revolutionary France, where we are... I studied history in college, but basically we're becoming an actual functional state where the monarch is no longer the state, but the state is a representation of the people of the state, which are the Pashaine. So basically we're kind of doing nationalism, which is very interesting. It's very well written. The person who is writing it, obviously, has a pretty good grasp of what the sort of change in perspective. We will purge the Majocrats. Alright. Do that. And we can up maximum stability. Losing faith in government. The populace have given their toil and sweat to a system which promised they, too, were a guild member of the state, and which now seems more fragile than ever. Murmurs of discontent erupt into public protest at the drop of a hat wherever the mob suspects arcane conspiracy. By nature, these folks are entirely on our side, arranged against the elitist tyranny of the Witch King. But with so many government institutions turning out to be corrupt or weak in favor of the magocratic agenda, they know not which of us to trust. While their anger is justified, the more it spills out into the streets, the more it aids the mage's agendas. Nobody benefits from unrest but the seditionists. Yeah, we're gonna have to suppress them, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to use pretty extreme level of fighting to suppress them, but so be it. Oh, they ran away. Importing illegal magical goods. Following our stricter control on goods related to arcane practice, illicit smugglers have found ways to bypass custom checks, bribing officials or using clever disguises to hide their shipments of forbidden reagents, enchanted weapons, and dangerous artifacts. The black market is thriving, and their contraband is quickly making its way into the hands of mages, criminals, and other anti-democratic factions. Losing faith. Let's take the Rector's blessing. Losing faith in the government. Okay, let's do Treason Act. Yep. Pay a bribe. Alright. Unexplained failures in key infrastructure. Reports flood the lesser ministries complaining of systematic project failures at sites across Pashaine. Repairs go undone, construction projects collapse, and the inquests that follow discover missing materials or shoddy workmanship. This is simply not the Pashaine standard. The obvious suspect is magical sabotage on the part of arcane conspirators. And indeed, some of these project failures appear to be the work of saboteurs or mages, yet every institution in Pashaine is currently mired in paranoia. It is also entirely possible that these projects are failing precisely due to that kind of infighting. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Nope, I gotta deal with them. Need to go deal with that. Recruits fear the Magi. As the corrupt agenda of the Mage Lobby has become increasingly clear, the rank-and-file soldiery of Pashaine have become increasingly wary of their supposedly loyal mage comrades. Fearing the possibility of undue influence, illusionary subversion, or even simple extortion, mages have long held themselves apart from other sections of the military reserved for special operations, and this distinction continues to breed profound distrust. Desertion rates grow, as does grassroots military movements arguing for the removal of mages from the ranks altogether. It is clear that the mage cadres are growing increasingly unpopular. We don't need the craven recruits. Breaking their power base. A mage tower is not merely a building, it is a symbol of secrecy, aloofness, of unaccountability. For centuries, these spires have risen unchecked across our borders. Silent fortresses of a rival order whose arcane cabals write their own laws, train their own heirs, and chart their own futures without so much as a glance towards government. It has become increasingly clear that such fundamental unaccountable institutions cannot be allowed to exist. It is unclear what form of magical education will survive the upheaval Pashaine now bears, but we cannot allow these elitist hives of sedition to survive. Tear them down. Ordinance of tower breaking. Admin support. Mission. Pay the bribe, minting rides, admin support. Right. These guys need to come back this way. Ghouls attracted to battlefield. Yeah. These guys need to protect trade in Anbennar. People are disappearing. Since we made it easier for the peasants to move around in search of better farming opportunities, it has unfortunately been more difficult to track them down when the army needs recruits. I don't know whether that's related. A recent diplomatic attaché has incited much suspicion in the halls of the state since his arrival 2 weeks ago. Preternaturally calm and apparently unconcerned with even the most worrying of recent events, the attaché shows all of the classic signs of arcane enthrallment, including the fat emotional effect which is so distinctive of those dancing to another's tune. As of yesterday, news of this strange interloper have hit the streets of the capital, and now crowds urge for the purging of the subversive element and the removal of magical spies from our midst. Kill them at once and search their quarters. Yeah. Grant it. The artificers reach out. The position of mage, at least as traditionally understood, is incompatible with Pashaine society. This has become clear. Many suggestions and models for reforming magical education already swirl around a staunchly anti-magocratic parliament, yet in truth the dominant feeling at present is absolute. Mage's education, as we know, must end. In such an environment, artificery has emerged as a natural opposite to magic, egalitarian where magical study is fundamentally elitist. Public-minded, where the towers were always secretive, the purpose of artificery are focused on the welfare of the people, while the cultivation of magic merely empowers the self. In recent weeks, nascent artificery guilds in the major cities of Pashaine have sought to clarify their loyalty before the government, echoing many of the most strident criticisms against the traditional practice of magic. And yes, this construction. Commissions. Corruption, economy. A war wizard is burned to crisp by a faraway laser. Dorado. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's do the Burlites. The Artificers. Mystic Ciphers. Yeah, we'll let them keep that. Okay. And then propaganda has its downsides. Okay, one of our generals is dead. Let me do this one. And then Black Power College, which I forgot to do earlier. Taking their reagents away. MP Rosadin Offrow is a tiny woman, barely peering over the lecterns in the Chamber of Representatives, yet her voice rings out clear. She is the chairwoman of the newly minted Special Subcommittee for Economic Decarnization, and she rattles off a list of products newly controlled in Pashaine imports herbs of limited medicinal value, obscure animal parts, strange brittle stones, dyed cloth, and powdered paints. Such threats do not present themselves on the battlefield or the chamber, she calls. Her voice high but resonant, they slip into port in the holds of foreign ships, in the secret pouches of wandering healers, and vials slipped into pockets and in wine barrels. And from there, they fall directly into the pockets of seditionists. We must be vigilant parliamentarians, and we must be ruthless. Our markets will recover, the mages will not. Now I'll do this one. Smugglers have found a way to bypass customs checks. Alright. Now we'll do the gnomes. Do that. Here we shall take administrative efficiency. And then here, customs charters, minting rights, admin support, military support, Republican tradition, army condition. Military, admin support, delegation, autonomy, Republican tradition. Now I'll take a look at trade power. And then here we want to go indebted to merchant guilds. Okay. Steal before sorcery. The mage offers their empty promises, the ever-vigilant sage, fireball in hand, who saves the citizens the bother of a fight. Yet such deals are poisoned chalices. Give up the rifle, and one gives up the means to resist. The means to fight off the tyrant who commands the unthinking, shambling mass. A polity of laws must be inhabited and defended by its own, who win by their fight a stake in the project of us all. No, it is right to bleed for the lands upon which one stands. We do not scheme our love of our homes in high towers or cosseted reading rooms. We breathe it in and trod in the mud of it. We must revere our citizen soldieries, our guild of an army, and reject the coward's logic of the bone puppeting lich. We Pashaine have done much for the Empire. As recent participants in the imperial decision-making and enthusiastic self-advocates, we have greased the wheels of the Diet and built up a strong reputation for diplomacy and tenacity. It is time we cash that reputation in. The situation in Pashaine cannot be allowed to continue. Magical subversion and the anti-democratic influence of magical lobbies undermine our very way of life, eroding the institutions which make Pashaine great. It will not be made into some arcane autocracy, chafing under the whim of some addled megalomaniac scholar. We must call upon the Empire to intervene in our favor, chastening the mages and bringing seditious elements to heel. The letter is signed, the Diet is addressed. Soon we will know if the Empire truly values those who hold it up. This is quite a thematic run, given that the Empire was going magicratic prior to, things falling apart. Alright. Pay out a bribe. Take side, bribe. Minting rights. Grant a commission. Pay a bribe. Okay, there we are. Ask for Imperial help. Weeks pass in silence after our appeal to the Emperor, weeks of building fury in the halls of Parliament. This brush off when it came bore an imperial seal. Internal troubles must be resolved by internal strength. The Empire is a shield, not a crutch. An echoing, furious silence following the reading in the Chamber of Representatives. 200 years of imperial participation, not always loyal to the current Emperor, but always invested, always recognizing fundamentally the legitimacy of the imperial throne, ended in but a moment. This will not go unanswered. Artificers are a little bit upset with us. Do not want to do that. I don't want to do what the mages want either. Election. Additionally, I kind of want to accept the Hill Knolls in. Yeah, that improves them. Lifting the air of mistrust. Under the magical reign of terror, which no civil servant may trust their fellow is not enthralled, the functioning of government has come to a virtual standstill. Clerks sit afraid to act, unsure if their orders were drawn by puppeteered hands, while the offices of state brace for the next seditious act, the next charmed MP. Perhaps this is the greatest victory the mages have won. To stop us from trusting one another. No longer. An army of vetted, loyalist mages and artificers work now to ward the great institutions of state. Soon one may sit within one's office, safe in the knowledge that one's speech, at least within these four walls, is one's own. Of course, for as long as the crisis lasts, we will need such public servants at their station, and nowhere else. Alright, and here... quantity, quality... Statue on Chamber Sanctity. Autonomy, admin support, minting rights, corruption, governmental progress, admin support, Parliament Commission, pay the bribe out, admin support. The game ends. The state is utterly vindicated. Though the whispers of the Witch King sound across the veil of time and death, we Pashaine have proven stronger. We faced a threat which slunk through the corridors and found purchase in quiet places. A threat which had been building for hundreds of years before it became clear to us. So often have otherwise good men spoken of expediency in times of crisis. They have justified the sacrifice of virtue and the aversion of greater evil, and perhaps they may have even been right. Yet we, in our time of crisis, have needed no such extraordinary measures. We have not turned to a tyrant to save us, have not invested some hollow suit of army with all the responsibilities we fear to bear. No, we have averted tyranny by the will of the people without compromising the virtues of our state. A new day dawns for Pashaine, tested and vindicated. Perhaps the mage conspirators were right to call this troubled time a prelude to greatness. Greatness achieved. Alright. The innocent dream of a place just beyond the door of power, where evil will stay good and conquered. The truth, instead, is that we must stand in the room where we find ourselves. We must labor to preserve our rightful place in this world, must continually shake off the scholarly mantle of autocracy. Those we seek to subvert Those who seek to subvert the Pashaine people will find that the spirit of the state, the resolute resolve of our institution, is quite a bit more vigorous than they thought. Lucia Sil, Val... No. Alright. We hail from a constellation of cities along the Luna, do we not? We recognize more than others the need for our Pashaine identity is braided from many fibers and struggle to explain to outsiders that, well, yes, I am Pashaine, I am Manaborian, and I'm a Vermin, but also not quite. So it is with the god, the fragment of the whole. We rebellions are not hierophants, so very certain. We are humble and acknowledge that our lives and our perceptions are only a small part of the immense whole. Yet neither are we mystics. Do not throw up our hands and proclaim the plains unknowable. Instead, we are people of hope, those who know that knowledge arcs towards divine unity, that we have finally understood the universe, and that we and it and God will be as one. Alright, we can go back to maintain a balance of power. Yeah, we can allow them to take over. Uncovering the rot. We find ourselves in the ruin of a fire, my good people. Some, the short-sighted, would count their blessings here and walk away from the smoldering wreckage, content to thank their luck. They would ignore the speed with which the lintel collapsed, the fragility of the frame which so quickly cut off the egress, the liquor doused on the rug. Resist the vice of relief, parliamentarians, and recognize that the deeper problem here is a framework of magical autocracy and deceit, which has proliferated throughout Anbennar for centuries. Left alone, the petty conspiracies of the Scholars' Hall will fester once again, for we have learned to our cost that the only solidarity with mages possess is to themselves. That a person granted such power will always seek to wield it, unless the firm hand of the people reaches to draw them back. Some among us will rightfully concern themselves with the consequence of looking abroad, as we must to the many countries of Canor who have allowed such situations to come to pass. Such rot ignores the borders of men and draws the line upon maps, and so must we. Okay, let's get to the bottom of this. So... yeah, we can go attack Lex. Can we ban the mages? Not quite yet. Let's put a spy mouth on them. Okay. Ching the Magisterium's archives. Yeah, that'll naturally just go up. The regimental towns. Grant it, sure. Okay. literally filthies everywhere that it's possible to. Cleric herd vampires. Okay. And some shit. Oh, Resin Con's looking big. And... Interesting. Okay. And that has been converted. Excellent. Now we want to culture convert a few more provinces. Eastamarian, 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 Eastamarian. Alright, I'm going to pause the recording for a moment. Alright. Oh, Vanheim's looking pretty big. We can do Claire or Old Dame's Mouth. I can actually bring one of these armies over here. Mystic Ciphers, okay. On the Artificers. Yeah, Spark Drive Rifles. Okay, for Algeria, literally just give me this, and then Fourth Religion, War Rats. First Life on the Ocean, okay, good. Actually, I will need to leave some guys over there. Third Rebellion debate, sainthood and aspects. my fleet go? Oh. Community, freedom of the press. Be military law. Excellent. Their benefactor. It is the formal position of government at this time that the magical ability is not a legitimate basis for guild organization, does not qualify for the associative rights thereto bound. This extends to informal groups which organize themselves along the principles of guildhood. Recognizing the danger of such organizations to the security and ongoing prosperity of the state, the government authorizes the forcible dissolution of any and all such structures and additionally charge the local authorities with this duty. Parliamentary report on the collusion of mages within the Luna River Valley. Based on the papers, correspondences, and financial documents recovered from the Magisterium, significant evidence now exists to suggest the mages within the Luna River Valley were in active collusion with magisterial aims to undermine the rightful representative government of Pashaine. This included, but is not limited to, the leaking of ministerial information to magisterial officials with the active funding of magisterial institutions within Pashaine, which attempted the same, the open libel of Pashaine government institutions, expressions of sympathy for counter-governmental actions with Pashaine on the part of domestic or foreign entities, and the expression of sympathy for magocratic rule now prescribed under the Witch King Act. An organized program of funding for Luna River mages and magisterial institutions is observed until approximately a year before attempted magocratic coup. This program appears to have been deliberately obfuscated through the division of such informal scholarship among several citizens of the Upper Luna. Such efforts point to the organization of a coup across international borders, perhaps even on the part of the Magisterium itself. At this time, the Subcommittee for Institutional Decarnation recommends the immediate imprisonment of any mage funded in the above manner found to be guilty in the above aforementioned offenses. In cases where imprisonment and nullification protocols are unlikely to result in a successful dampening of magical power, we authorize summary deportation, excepting of course where the offense falls under the capital punishment clause of the Treason Act. That. Of course, we gotta go this way. Nepotism in the Artificer Guilds. Okay, so a lot of people upset. Still have access to the Chancellor's Word though. So yes, we will take that. And then we will pop Chancellor's Word. Excellent. When they are ready. Inflation should be lower, nobility loyalty. Yeah, it's going up. I can't see Slam though. There goes a Commandant. heretical minister. Yeah, we don't have any heretic provinces anyways. Should also give me... Yep, me even lower naval tradition decay. Where is my naval tradition? I never bothered to look at it. Let's do Relations, up level 3. Alright. Wrestling back control. The normalization of the Papermakers Guild is complete as of week's end of the 7th of Yedsment. While the guild continues to experience some deficit as a result of the absence of our local tower, we have secured on their behalf the first right of refusal for legal and governmental supply contracts in the province. We are optimistic that no further arrests will be necessary. Jeanette could not help but watch them, the assembled mages, the suspects. As she worked methodically through a stack of notes assembled from 5 and 60 interviews, the state declaration, she found herself glancing at one mage, then the other, then the other. She could not understand why they were so calm. This was, without much exaggeration, the singular moment of her life. She would present only a part of the evidence, that which related to the Magicratics funding acquired through sympathetic contacts in other guilds. Her evidence dealt with the opportunists largely not present in the courtroom, those who had professed loyalty to Pashaine virtues while funneling a little into the seditionists. Insurance should the mages succeed. It was an instinct many Pashaine would publicly decry and privately understand. It was the smart thing for a merchant to do in uncertain times. Such opportunists had hoped to play both sides. They had lost the coin flip. The Pashaine would understand the impulse, but would not back a loser. Her evidence was a fait accompli. Indeed, she could have recited it by heart. She only kept rifling through her papers because the mages at the front, the woman with the arrogant expression, Jeanette couldn't help it. She made eye contact, born to the woman with all the fury she felt, as a woman born of Pashaine, as a woman who had dedicated her life to these fussy, disputatious institutions which were the very stuff of democracy. She hated this mage for her arrogance. She hated the mage for not comprehending the thing her lot had almost destroyed. The woman merely smirked. Jeanette felt her nostrils flare. Sorry. Okay, we can. Where's the economy? Issue an embargo against them. Closed markets. We speak with some scorn of the abhorrent moral cost of our decaying Canorian rivals' extracist colonialism, as well we should. Yet just as profound is the functional vulnerability of their intercontinental trade lines to any event which disrupts even a single node in these sprawling trade structures. Guild corporatism may seem ponderous and slow, but we see the rewards of extensive vertical integration and relative autarky in the stability of our domestic markets. I really want to ban the mages. These guys can go. Why not? They're gnomes. Yeah, let's keep them. Getting fewer and fewer alliances these days. Arboron? Yeah, Arboron could be a decent ally. Although they're allied with Laurent. Corvaria. Yeah, we can do that. Okay, that one's great. Excellent. Last fight of the mages. Alright. The mages made their move during Purcell's peroration, a point at which he came to his final emotional appeal. Jeanette was murmuring along with his words under her breath. They'd practiced this endlessly together in a chamber of whistling windows cracked during one of the protests a few months ago. They'd half froze to death, their coats on the whole time, but it had kept them sharp, kept them working. This was important. This part. It was vital that they could prove what the mages had done, not merely purge them in the manner of a courtier fallen from favor. All of this, every judgment, needed to happen in view of the people. One moment Herschel was approaching the point of his most full-throated denunciation, the next he was in flames, and there was a low rumbling of an explosion from somewhere else in the courthouse, and everything was chaos. Later, Jeanette would mull that they had probably chosen the moment of the speech precisely, the point at which Herschel had been arguing most passionately for the virtue of the people's rule. The point and promise of a guild of citizens. It was, she realized, a mockery. In the moment, she merely knelt over his body until long after the mage flame had burned itself out and stared at his terrible burned corpse. They hadn't known each other before this. They were distant colleagues at best, left to argue the case on behalf of the government, volunteering because they both truly believed. In a normal conversation, he did this annoying, stiff, every sentence and a half. It was unbearable. All that disappeared before the people's court, just as her nasal, anxious tone acquired a note of deepness. It was the dignity of the state, the virtue of Pashaine flowing through them both. The mages couldn't understand that. They simply could not subordinate themselves to something greater. They had to run for their fellows, for the only ones they respected, other mages, rather than face the judgment of the body politic. She realized with a hushed surprise that she truly hated them. They will pay. Alright. Yeah, I'm gonna take the tolerance of heathens. God, look at those. Such beautiful borders. Wonderful. No. That. Let's get a few more. 2 now. Yeah, I can just leave him like that. Okay. We can do that. Call in these two. Creation cost was pretty solid. The verdict. Jeanette approached the lectern. She was a small woman, but the air of gentle fury which had suffused her all these months was still with her. She had no fear of the chamber. In fact, she had been here before in the visitor gallery back when she was an apprentice, when particular legislation was coming through her legal guild wanted up-to-date notice, sitting through hours of sessions for 10 minutes of useful information. Thrilling. Now, though, she was proud to be here. She took up her position. Nobody had questioned her right to be here or her appointment to the inquest in which she had been the only non-judge. She had watched Herschel die in front of her, and she had been changed. Parliamentarian, she called out, her voice deep and dignified. In days to come, the judgment of our inquest will be published in full. I am deputized to inform the Parliament of our verdict in brief and empower you to act upon it. She swallowed, not nerves, anticipation, maybe even glee. We, the panel, recommend the immediate and utter dissolution of any and all mages' guilds in Pashaine, until such time as Parliament can arrange establishment of a new form of magical state organization. We find that the structure of such guilds, and indeed of Anbennarian magical education as a whole, is fundamentally incompatible with representative guild structure, and thus should be given no legal standing. And we affirm that the Pashaine Parliament is authorized to detain any mages organizing in such fashion or refusing to cooperate with the reorganization of magic in Pashaine under the full terms of the Treason Act. Excellent. Bastards are finally done. Hostile trading. Null Minister. And we'll increase the tolerance of gnolls. Okay, so who else am I fighting? Or Aldrazi is gone. Next keep is besieged. Right. How long until I can do the Chancellor's Word? Careful maneuvering. 1 year. Alright, that's fine. We can take this. Finally something to burn my money on. Okay. Business is booming. Okay, yep. There we are. Easy peasy. Kale market. Already building one there. My maintenance modifier is great. Quarantine the port, let them die. Alright, Gisden. Excellent. Okay, Busalar, do they want out? Yes, they do. Let's see what if I can get that by sieging down their entire nation. Alright. Our army organizer. We can take... Yeah, it's fun. Why not? These guys need to go to port during war. Actually, I will send them back to Blue Hearts, then back to Belcare, and they can begin drilling. I'll wait for this war to be over. Okay, who else are we fighting? Akasik, Prothon. Really, there's no need for us to really sit there. Heated debate, pay the money, take the cannons, send them over here. Exorcism of the haunted house. Alright. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then let's talk to the artificers. Client network. Weapons of mass production. And the artificers, and then the grand exhibition. Mage bank project. Alright. And we'll keep him. He's righteous. There goes a diplomat. Don't know why we have... someone who's apparently decided to believe in some random horrific faith. Alright, let's do debate. Advisor cost. Stability, army condition. Kinda like... I think there's improved relation debate. We can do this. Pressment. Akashi. Would they be willing to transfer trade? They would. Alright. Just means... okay, yeah, that's not happening. But I can, however... annul that treaty. Take their money. Your reps. What am I doing? There they are. They have been black flagged. Okay. Okay. Yeah, this will make some people upset. Whatever. Good relations there. Yep, do that. Go up to 30 back cannons. Alright. We'll send them a few thousand soldiers. We can do the Chancellor's word, just deal with some of the aggressive expansion. Alright. These guys can drill as well. No, fuck off. Sure, we'll do that. how much governing capacity do I have to spare? Okay. Let's actually bring these guys up to 4, so we have just a little bit of extra. Army of... all... Spark drive rifles, hurrah! Officers... Portable turrets. And here, to do this, to do spark drive rifles. Do that. No. Wexenard Archive. We object most strenuously to this ridiculous witch hunt. The Pashaine may scream at the top of their lungs that we have sought their overthrow by mages, as though such an arrangement would be to our benefit. But they make themselves even more ridiculous in the eyes of the civilized world. They wax poetic of the lunacy of the autocrat, and apparently overlook the madness of the crowd. Wexenard's secrets. Our detailed examination of Wexenard records has revealed very little evidence of their direct involvement in our mage's attempt at sedition. Though money used to fund the magocratic cells in Pashaine did travel through Wex, this was also true of half a dozen other polities in Anbennar. It seems that the mages viewed Pashaine's powerful executive institutions as rife for puppeteering, underestimating the redundancy and resilience of the guild system, and thus focused their efforts on subverting our institutions. Our major Canorian rivals could then be relied upon to support chaos in Pashaine for their own purpose. In regards to Wex, we have found systemic evidence of plans to encroach upon our outright conqueror, the Luna Valley, dating back to the 15th century. Some documents appear to bear the seal of Wathane III. But if anything, the plans only proliferated over time, increasing in scope and support as the Luna Valley became more wealthy and centralized and presented an even more tempting prize. Oh, record of Bow Heel. Interesting. Okay, so we need 5 provinces. Development. Why rebellionism? Put simply, it is a faith which recognizes the ultimate aim of theology is the administration of belief. In place of our ornamental mystery, rebellion promises revelation. In place of the temple autocracy, it promises ventricle democracy. Just as the forces of the Enlightenment have been put to work rationalizing the processes of state, so too does rebellionism go to work rationalizing the process of belief. 35 development. Alright. Exclusive trade rights. Okay, we can do... Let's get rid of some of these, which do less. Actually, oversight by the clergy is good. Okay, so we want what? City expansion privileges. And then exclusive trade rights. Cities are bodies like any other, and just as the state functions best as a grand guild in which citizens gain membership, so are cities governed by the best on this guild-like membership basis. Corporate representatives of cities, in addition to provincialization or federalization of regions, allows for unique character of the urban development to receive a fair share of the legislation. Fair shake in the legislature, sorry. Okay, so with that, we get big boy modifier. Yeah. Additionally, we can come back this way. Alright, we'll take that. For the Ashen Thorn formation. Could just get that. Alright, so let's take a save. And I think I am going to end this episode here before we do the Denounce the Perpetrators. Which will be fun. I think we're doing this tree pretty well. Good time. Oh. What? Okay, the Lion Command won. That's actually very interesting. I've only seen the Lion Command win, like, one other time. It's typically the Boar Command who wins because they have the best ideas. Okay, so I think I'm going to end this here. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good day.